I have a motion? Second. Commissioner Stegman moves. Commissioner Vega-Peterson seconds. Approval of R8.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Kafori and Commissioners. My name is Anna Marie Allen. I'm the Community Engagement Advisor in Chair Kafori's office. I'm joined today by Danny Bernstein, our Executive Director of the Office of Community Involvement. I'm the liaison between the Chair's office and the OCI. I look for ways to partner around committee appointments, outreach practices and procedures, and engagement opportunities. Today we are bringing forward a difficult but critical conversation and decision point. One that has prompted the OCI and the Office of Diversity and Equity to begin discussing how we as the county apply the Equity Lens tool and recently adopted Workforce Equity Strategic Plan to the roles and responsibilities of our volunteer public officials. But first we need to address the situation that has brought that question to the forefront of our engagement. We are here to request that 2 individuals be removed from the Community Involvement Committee due to conduct that does not align with county values. 33 complaints from 8 individuals have been reported to county staff regarding the 2 individuals named in today's board action. This request is not about excluding individuals who push back or challenge how we as a county government operate. We embrace innovative, diverse ideas and voices. But there is a respectful and inclusive way of ensuring everyone at the table can safely contribute to the equitable change that our community wants and deserves. Today is about leaning into difficult conversations and actually listening and acting when our employees and volunteers bring forward concerning experiences. Last week, this board approved the Workforce Equity Strategic Plan. That plan highlights a framework that calls out the concept of safety, trust, and belonging. We are responsible for making changes that align with that framework. We have a responsibility to stand with and protect our volunteers who experience oppressive, intimidating behavior while engaging in the county system. We have heard from past and present members of the CIC that there is a desire to move forward with establishing the group's priorities and partnering with this board to ensure authentic, equitable civic involvement. We have also heard from staff that they would like to see increased partnership with the OCI and CIC to bring additional community voice to our work. My hope is that from here we can strengthen these relationships because ultimately we have the same goal, to center the voices of our communities in Multnomah County. Now I'd like to turn it over to Danny Bernstein to share more about the process and next steps. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, Kafori, and Commissioners. As Anna said, my name is Danny Bernstein. I'm the Executive Director for the Office of Community Involvement. I'm going to talk about the steps that the OCI took to attempt to resolve the behavioral concerns and ensure that everyone involved had a chance to be heard. And I'll also talk about what comes next after today's board action. My office does not take lightly the request to remove volunteers from a county advisory committee. We know that our volunteers give generously of their time and are deeply invested in working alongside us to serve the communities of Multnomah County. Our county advisory bodies play a crucial role in our work, bringing the community voice into county decision-making. The Community Involvement Committee, or CIC, has an important role to play at the county as the county's advisory body on our community engagement programs and practices. Both myself and OCI's program manager, Brenda Morgan, staff the CIC, providing them with administrative support and conducting outreach and recruitment when there are vacancies. We take seriously our responsibility as county staff to ensure that our volunteers are working in a safe and welcoming environment. In January, both Brenda and I began to receive complaints from CIC members regarding their experiences working with 2 other CIC members. Since then, our office has documented 21 complaints from 8 individuals regarding 1 CIC member's behavior, and we've received 12 complaints from 6 individuals regarding the second CIC member's behavior. The majority of these complaints are the result of verbal interactions. These volunteers reported feeling bullied, intimidated, and threatened. Members told us they felt unsafe and unable to fully participate in the CIC, that they feared retaliation for expressing concerns, and several members said they were considering quitting the committee because of the treatment they had experienced. The chair's office also received several complaints, and those are included in the numbers I just mentioned. As our office received complaints, we began consulting with the county attorney and county HR on how to respond. We received an increasing number of complaints in late February, and so with the guidance of the county attorney and HR, I reached out to both individuals on March 14th, requesting that they meet with myself and county HR to discuss the concerns others had expressed and talk about how we could work together to foster a safe working environment for everyone. Both individuals declined to meet. Again, in consultation with HR and the county attorney, I drafted letters of expectation for both individuals, which outline the concerns and expectations for county public officials. This letter was sent to both individuals on March 20th, along with a second request to meet. I did not receive a response from either individual. A week later, I sent a third request to set up a meeting and stated that it is my expectation that we work in partnership to address concerns and ensure that the committee work environment is safe, inclusive, and welcoming. In this last request, I was clear that I would consider requesting that the Board of Commissioners rescind their appointment to the CIC. This last request was sent on March 26, and I've not received a response from either individual to this third request. Given that both individuals have refused or not responded to requests to work in partnership with county staff to be heard or address concerns, and given the severity of the concerns that multiple CIC members report feeling unsafe, bullied, and intimidated, we are asking that the board remove these two individuals from the CIC. Last Thursday, we notified both individuals as well as the full CIC that our office would be submitting this request for board action. Again, our office doesn't take this lightly. There are CIC members who have expressed that they do not feel it's the role of staff to make this request and who have not experienced the behaviors I've described. But I feel it is my responsibility to ensure that our volunteers have a safe environment and to bring this request to you on behalf of the volunteers who reached out to our office. Volunteers who expressed a desire to do the committee's work but who feel unable to do so when feeling bullied and intimidated. As staff, I want to bring their concerns to the forefront so the people who reported this behavior don't have to fear retaliation. We would not ask those folks to be here to testify today when they are feeling unsafe. My office has spoken with several CIC members this week who expressed relief and support that we requested this action. In terms of next steps for the CIC, the committee's next meeting is this Tuesday, April 17th. The CIC steering committee sets the agenda for meetings, and staff will recommend that time be allocated at that meeting for members to discuss with staff the outcome of today and ask any questions. We'll also be seeking input from the CIC about the next steps to move their work forward and any support they need from county staff. The CIC is also currently working with a facilitator selected by the steering committee, and she will be supporting the group to develop their own group agreements and clarify decision-making processes, and to identify any next steps around mediation or restorative justice that the group feels is needed to move forward. This process has also prompted us to reevaluate how we onboard new committee members and convey expectations of our volunteer public officials. We also want to consider how we hold our volunteers accountable to conducting themselves in a manner consistent with county values, and want to make sure that when volunteers have a concern about other volunteers or staff, that they know where to turn within the county for assistance. We look forward to working with your offices and other county staff to explore how the new Workforce Equity Strategic Plan can apply to our volunteer public officials. Thank you for your time this morning, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We have some public comment. Do people have questions for Danny before public comment?
Madam Chair, I do have a question. Thank you, Danny, for coming before us today. And after reviewing the county charter and the relevant code, it is clear that the board responsibility for appointment of the 15 members of the Citizen Involvement Committee is very clear in the charter. Section 3.251, Section B, subsection 1 states the board shall appoint 15 members, 3 members residing in each of the 4 commissioner districts, and 3 county residents at large. But I fail to see the language that gives the authority for this board to remove CIC members. What is your take on this?
We were advised that it's up to the discretion of the Board of Commissioners to appoint or remove members who are on an advisory body that advises the Board of Commissioners. And I would also look to the county attorney for any clarification on that.
Where do you see that in the code or the county charter that gives us this discretion?
Well, the Board of Commissioners are responsible for appointing the members. We did explore, we wanted to know what was the avenue to make this decision, and as we were consulting with the county attorney and county HR, there was no other body within the county that has the authority to remove these members because they are appointed by the board. I do think that one of the things that we can explore through this process is the improvements we can make to county code to make these processes more clear around onboarding volunteers, volunteer expectations, and that is something we'd be excited to work with you on.
Yes, but right now, but to be clear, the only authority we have as a board in the charter is to appoint. It does not give us the authority to dismiss or to terminate. Am I correct?
I would look to the county attorney, I think, to clarify what's in code and
Have you
charter.
looked at the charter?
Yes.
And when you looked at the charter, did it say that it gives us the authority as a board to terminate? It only says that we only have the authority to nominate.
Commissioner Smith, if I may, the section that you're citing to is the county code.
Yes.
And I have been consulted and have advised that this Board of County Commissioners maintains authority to select its members as advisory committees. And
Yes.
that authority inherent is that is also the authority to remove people when their services are no longer needed or when it no longer meets the best interest of the county. And it is the Board of County Commissioners,
Yes.
not the Office of Citizen Involvement,
Okay.
to make those decisions.
So the email that you sent me, County Attorney Jenny McCord, you said that the charter nor the county code has any language that gives us the authority to dismiss or terminate. That's what your email said. I looked for it because I was not quite clear myself. I didn't see it, but I know you're saying as a whole, we have the ability to do that as a board, but it is not indicated in the charter like it is that gives us the responsibility to appoint. It doesn't give us the responsibility to terminate. The charter does not.
The charter doesn't speak to it, that is correct.
Thank you.
However, the board does have discretion and does have authority to select advisory committee members that advise the board.
According to who? We get our direction from the charter and the county code. If it is not in the charter, if the language is not in the county code, we do not have that authority. And I want to make it clear, this is your discretionary, this is your opinion. It is not identified in the code and it is not in the charter. So what we're doing today does not appear that we have the authority to do what we're doing today. You don't have the authority to bring this to us today.
Do we have any other comments or questions before we listen to public comment? Marina, would you call people up? Thank you.
Please come forward when I call your name. I'll call 4 people at a time. Jan Johnson, Judy Hadley, Dr. Gloria Gazzo, and Bernardino del Ter Guerrero. Pardon me.
You can begin. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Kafori and Commissioners. My name is Jan Johnson, and you've seen me in these chairs many times. Usually I'm asking for and oftentimes thanking you and Sheriff Reese for your efforts to improve policy and training regarding immigrant protections. And each time I have stressed the importance of accountability and transparency. That's why I'm testifying here today. I have 3 concerns about Agenda Item R.8. 1, we all need to hear and respect opposing views. I was part of a company where we grew from 12 people and no assets to more than 900 people and $12 billion in assets in 10 years. And every one of those projects, citizen involvement was key, absolutely essential. And citizen involvement by its nature is feisty. The whole point of citizen engagement is to open up a space for voices, and sometimes those voices get loud and angry. In my experience, sometimes people bring guns. But never did we describe any citizen in the kind of language you use in Agenda Item R.8. Any attack on a volunteer community member is punching down. And punching down is never okay. 2, in my opinion, these claims are not believable. UTE has provided IT consulting for my business and my personal computing needs for nearly 7 years, 6 years. And as a resident of the Hollywood district, I admire his work as president of the Hollywood Boosters, and we share a common passion for bridging the urban-rural divide. While I was putting up wind farms in red states and red portions of blue states, I was helping bridge the divide. You has been helping rural youth in Oregon put their computing skills to use in their communities. I view you as a model of reducing polarization. So for me, the words used to describe him are, in my experience, not credible. 3, we need more citizen involvement today than ever before. I've been talking with your staffers and some of you personally about redress, specifically creating a joint ombudsman's office with the City of Portland along the lines of what they have in Dayton, Ohio, and Montgomery County. I'm in favor of more independent oversight with more robust structures to address complaints and improve practices, not staff-led citizen rubber stamping. Anybody volunteering time and energy to exert grassroots power deserves to be heard. This is not the time in history to silence citizen voices. All the punching down this nation can stand is coming from the highest office in the land. Thank you for your time and consideration. I will follow up with each of your offices on this matter.
Thank you. So we have a long agenda. We've got a lot of other items so if people could please non-verbally communicate their support or non-noisily, thank you, audibly. Good morning. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Gloria Gazal. Thank you for having me here. I'm currently on the CIC, and I'm really, really disappointed and embarrassed at some of the accusations I heard this morning, because some of these things is just new to me. I sit on the CIC, and I'm not even aware of some of these things. And it just, to me, seems like there's some shadowy business happening in the background that's really counterproductive and counter to the work that we do as a public entity. And that's the reason why I'm here this morning. I'm supposed to be in Seattle. I'm probably going to get a ticket because my car is out there, but this is too important. And I think a ticket is a small price to pay for that. We've got people who are passionate on the CIC, Greg and Ute and others, and OCI. Like, what we're here to do, we volunteer our time in order to make sure that this place is a good place, a safe place, where we have multiple perspectives. And sometimes, if you don't understand cultural differences, people may come across as being intimidating, quote unquote, and threatening. I've never felt threatened by either one of the two. In fact, if there's anyone who embodies transparency and robust discussion and equity, I can't find of any good exemplars of that. Is it allowed sometimes? Yes, it is on the CIC. But that's what it takes. A democratic process is a messy process. We need to allow space for everybody to express themselves. And for me, there's just tremendous lack of due process. We haven't been given an opportunity and a time as a body, as a larger CIC body, to work through some of our differences. And for that to go from where it was to get to this point here, without some of us even knowing, no one ever asking us a question how we feel, it's really, just shows like, I don't know, embarrassing, it's even a word I want to use for that. I feel like there are some background businesses that's taking place that I don't know and I can't put my fingers on. But I also feel like we got people who care, and we should be given an opportunity to have a conversation. I respect OCI staff. I think they're doing a great job. I also respect my colleagues on the CIC, and I think we've got people who care about this community leaders who are giving their times to come and to try to make the city and the county a better place to live. And to treat them this way, for me, is just not equitable. It goes contrary to everything that we stand for as a county. And so I was going to urge a no vote, but I thank Commissioner Smith for clarifying that at the beginning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Judy Hadley. I live in District 2. I have a couple of observations, and so I'll be very brief about it. During my tenure as former chair of the Community Involvement Committee, I aspired to emulate President Obama's beliefs and practices surrounding the value of civility. Mr. Obama believes that reason overtakes negativity, and that given time, people respond positively to civility and rational argument. An astonishing lack of civility has shown itself to be invading our little band of appointed volunteer officials of the CIC, which interferes with the free democratic discourse of its members. Abandonment of reason, shouting down, and denouncement of speakers is pushing away new and old members, diminishing our numbers. The welcoming experience of membership has been compromised. These behaviors, which I have witnessed, must stop before the CIC can ever begin to reach its potential. As of now, the CIC is at a standstill. I'll leave you with one more lesson President Obama set down for us. Civility also requires relearning how to disagree without being disagreeable. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I want to first preface by thanking Marina for making a courageous attempt to say my name, and you did a great job. Thank you. My name is Bernardino de la Torre Guerrero, and I'm an at-large community involvement member. And I felt myself inclined to come and speak here before you because what I've have been noticing in the last 3 months is that due to Mr. Greg Anderson's great efforts and due diligence, has prepared a packet of narrative of history of the Community Involvement Committee that has educated us to our extreme importance of our role, and also hopefully educates the commissioners of the importance of the Community Involvement Committee to be an independent body. What I've noticed in the last several months is sort of like this usurping of our independence. And this is why I've written letters to the Community Involvement, Office of Community Involvement, that you have also seen that I sent most recently, because I feel strongly that it is important that our voices be heard and that life is a two-way street, as my grandfather taught me. He's also taught me to stand up for injustice when it's happening and to speak up for those less fortunate. I, as a member, have learned in the last 3 months that I represent thousands of voices, and those primarily that are in the shadows, that contribute both culturally and economically to the county. And this is why I'm here, to speak up for these two individuals, Mr. Anderson and Yuki, who is a refugee and represents the thousands of refugees in this county. I feel that these actions are counterproductive to race relations, and I'm glad, Ms. Smith, for clarifying and allowing us, the Community Involvement Committee, to meet next week, Tuesday, and address our concerns, our differences, in a way that it's independent and without interference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please come forward when I call your name. Gregory Anderson, Joe Walsh, Wu Tay, and Kathleen Todd. Please come forward.
You can begin. Go ahead.
Greetings. Thank you, Honorable Chair Kafuri and Commissioners. My name is Greg Anderson, and I'm currently the chair of the Community Involvement Committee. I was elected chair, I think it was last September. I was actually serving in the capacity on the CIC back in 2016 during what I've come to call the debacle of 2016, thinking that I was a member, but finding out, in fact, that the paperwork never got out of the office. And I was appointed among 10 appointees in November of 2016 to the CIC, and served as vice chair and was elected to chair in September. I sort of don't know what to say. I will tell you that I have a feeling that it's kind of a knot in my throat and a knot in my gut. I've never faced these kind of accusations in my life. I've served on multiple municipal budget committees. I chaired a planning commission for 5 of the 6 years that I was seated on that planning commission for a municipality previous to me moving here. I then ran for mayor and served a term. And I've worked with, I've sat in contentious meetings before, but I've never ever been faced with such an egregious accusation. I feel like I have been indicted, I feel like I've been found guilty, and I feel like I'm facing people who have been asked to provide a sentence to me without due process. It's just, I don't know what to say about that, except to categorically deny those accusations. I'd like to read 4 sentences to you, 1 long one and 3 short ones. The Office of Citizen Involvement is hereby established. The Office of Citizen Involvement shall develop and maintain citizen involvement programs and procedures designed for the purpose of facilitating direct communication between the citizens and the Board of County Commissioners. 2, a Citizens Committee and structure of the citizen involvement process shall be established by ordinance. 3, the Board of County Commissioners shall appropriate sufficient funds for the operation of the office of the committee. 4th and final, the Citizens Committee shall have the authority to hire and fire its staff. And I think inherent in that is everything between hiring and firing, which means supervision. The sentences I just read you are the 1984 voter-approved charter amendment. It was approved overwhelmingly. And I have tried, when I first took office, I said that there were 3 things I wanted to promote during my tenure. One was I wanted to promote full disclosure. Secondly, I wanted to promote robust discussion. And thirdly, I want to promote transparent decision making. I feel there's been great obstruction in bringing this report that you've been furnished earlier this week to our committee members. I would ask you to please not support the request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. Again, I will let my fellow committee members defend myself. Like Greg, I feel that I've been accused of something that isn't true, and is hurtful. And you know, I don't want to say this, but I was born in Cambodia, and I know what persecution is, and I know this is not on that level, but I want to say that when something starts over, when the CIC has a 35 years of history, but the last 3 years, there has been an attempt to start over and brush aside those long years of history. And so I want to talk about that personal experience, that in Cambodia, 1975, there was an attempt to do that, and it lasted 4 years, and a lot of destruction happened when the attempt was to set aside the legal structure, the enforcement, the rights of individuals, education, and so forth. And so this is not on that scale, but there's a little bit of this. And so I'm going to I've invited some other friends to come and talk about the history. But what I do want to talk about is the points of interest. CIC Chair Greg faced obstruction from staff and had leadership undermined from nearly the beginning when staff became aware of Greg's intent to dig up history to the origins of CIC. History project completed by Greg shows significant changes to structure and operations of CIC-OCI that conflict with the original intent of 30 years of history from 1984. There is substantial distortion to the facts that are made in the allegations of Chair Greg and Yuki before the commissioners. The evidence will show that it is most likely to prevent Greg and Yuki from furthering disseminating of the history project at the next CIC retreat and with other CIC members. The underlying reason is believed to be to maintain the recent changes imposed on CIC, OCI structures and operations without transparency of BOCC decision-making and robust public debate like that which created the CIC in 1984. Key questions. Are the county commissioners individually aware of changes to the structure and operations of CIC, OCI without transparency in the county ordinance? How were the changes to the CIC OCI made? Who made them? When were they made? Pertinent to the allegations against Chair Greg and Yuki, why were concerns raised on safety after the CIC retreat was canceled? Long, detailed timeline, which we furnished to the news agencies and to the public if you want to look at that. Why the rush to remove CIC Chair Greg and Yuki from the CIC before the next CIC meeting? These questions need to be answered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Joe Walsh, and I represent Individuals for Justice. I started to be an activist in 1970. I've been doing this almost 50 years. I have never seen this action before. A board going to remove 2 volunteers from a committee. I have never seen that before. It's usually done in executive committee. And the reason for that, and I'm a real fighter for transparency when it comes to this board and city council. But this is ridiculous. Come on, folks. This should be done in executive session where everybody sits down and has an opportunity to defend themselves. Not here in public. This is insane to do it this way. And it's insulting to all volunteers. And we love volunteers. We love staff. Because in my previous life, I know how hard they work because I was one. To insult 2 volunteers and not give them the opportunity to defend themselves is hypocrisy at its very core. Come on, folks. I know you have your minds made up on this because it wouldn't be here if you didn't. But for just for once, don't be the pirate eye when the vote comes. Vote your brain. These are volunteers. I love volunteers. And I'm not talking about the internal workings because I don't know them. I'm talking about your protocol. Your protocol sucks. Commissioner Smith brought up a really interesting fact. It's not in your charter to fire these people. It's implied by the city, not the city attorney, sorry, county attorney. It's implied. That's not good enough. So vote your brain. Come on, folks. Thank you for your time and your patience.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm Kathleen Todd. I served the county for 20 years, most of that time as the executive director of the Office of Citizen Involvement. There has been 2 executive directors since I retired in 2014. It is very, very difficult to come back and voice my comments, especially after the many satisfying years of positive and successful collaboration I enjoyed with multiple CIC chairs, county chairs, commissioners, and fellow department employees throughout the county. The original CIC-OCI model worked very productively over 30 years, decades during which there were many heated disagreements among members and staff, none of which required outside intervention to resolve. Openness, transparency, and independence were the reasons for the establishment of the CIC and its office. Recent events carry none of those hallmarks, I'm sad to say. Past history and accomplishments have been actively suppressed from the discussion as immaterial. 30 years of providing a nationally recognized model for independent citizen involvement is hardly immaterial. The current model with supervision of staff elsewhere is clearly not working. It is generating conflict arising over legitimate differences of opinion and questions about structure and mission. It is very disheartening to see how rapidly this conflict has been addressed with such a draconian response. After reading the OCI staff communications with CIC members, I can state that I never, ever would have moved to that level of official bureaucratic bullying. And I'm using that word on purpose. It would have been an admission of defeat and inability to do my job, especially as a response to a request for mediation from a volunteer. This proposed action has much, much wider implications than the CIC. May I continue? I just have a few
Finish your sentence.
Okay. It would send a negative message to volunteers that would cast a pall over volunteer involvement throughout the county. I strongly encourage you to send this back to the CIC itself to resolve and re-examine the structural model. CIC has bylaws. I want to say this.
I know your time is up, though, so if you could...
Yeah, I realize that, but this needs to be said publicly. CIC has bylaws that has a process for dealing with members' behavior and expulsion from their committee. It's an internal thing.
Thank you. Madam, sorry, go ahead. Do we have others?
Yes. Sarah Volk, Yukiko Kawano, Teresa Walton, and James Davis. Please come forward.
Teresa, you give them to to the clerk. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me here. So I'm here to speak on behalf of Mr. UT. I've known him for over 6 years, and in that time have sat with him through a number of meetings for a number of different boards and committees. I've seen him leading and hosting a multitude of community events, participating in a number of organizations, and bridge building across a number of meetings. I've also had the pleasure of, he had a key leadership role organizing Portland Forward's annual Spring Thing event, which worked to elevate and showcase keystone projects that could have a positive impact on our vision for Portland. As one aspect of that project, you played a pivotal role doing outreach to many groups, including our own at Equal Vote. Whether he's come to our meetings or I've come to his, you was always an invaluable addition to the group. He's soft-spoken, respectful, extremely knowledgeable, and careful to create space for everyone in the conversation. I especially appreciated UT's focus on the larger goals and mission, his honesty and clarity, and his careful attention to making sure our work was taking into account the bigger picture. UT's networks in many communities, his critical thinking, his expertise are all invaluable to forge the kind of coalitions that we need to accomplish our goals. UT was also a key leader and organizer behind PDX Startup Weekend Social Justice, an event that helps bring people together from the tech, business, activism, and social justice worlds in order to catalyze entrepreneurship and use it as a vehicle for change. Both events were expertly facilitated by UT, and everyone who participated had an incredible, inspiring, and empowering experience. I was especially impressed by the diversity in the event and its attendees, and also in the camaraderie and warmth displayed. Whatever your personal experience has been, I want to make sure that you understand that the person whose reputation is being called into question today is one of the most selfless and tireless community advocates that I have ever met. His impact here in Portland is indisputably positive. While group processes can certainly be challenging at times, and nobody is perfect, I absolutely encourage you all to reconsider the allegations made here today. Losing Yuki from the CIC would be a tragic loss to the community. I hope that you can instead work to rebuild the trust between the community and the county, and to regain focus on the pressing issues that we're faced with today. Often, our most important work is uncomfortable. I encourage everyone involved to take a step back and not take constructive criticism and honesty personally. We need each other.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner
Hi.
Meieran.
Sorry. My name is
Madam,
Yuki.
sorry, Commissioner Meieran.
I would like to make a motion that we postpone this discussion so that we can do further investigation after this, so much of this compelling testimony.
To postpone this agenda item?
This agenda item.
Okay. Do we have a second to that
I'm going to second that.
conversation?
Conversation is there. Today, it looks like there's a lot of people here to testify. I support with what Commissioner Meieran is talking about, but I think it is so important today to listen to the testimony and to understand that when we make a decision, if we're taking in testimony from people who are making accusations, that those accusations are made under oath. Because if you don't make those accusations under oath, how do we know that those accusations that are being made are true? We can't just assume that they are true. So I support you, but I think that it's important while we have the people here today that they continue to tell us what they need to tell us, and then we can go back and we can go forward from here.
Just give them the opportunity to testify.
Any
Yes,
other
give them the opportunity to
comments?
testify.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Smith, but we have some other things on the agenda that I'm hopeful that we can address today, and I appreciate everyone coming today, but I just feel like I need more information. So that's
and we
where I
will
am.
get more information through this testimony. I can't, compel you more than what I've said earlier, but these are very serious accusations. And if we have people here today and now to speak, let them speak, put it on the record, and then we can close it off.
Okay. Do we have any other? All right. Well, how many more speakers do we have after this?
We have 4. We have one more after this group.
Okay. Why don't we finish listening to folks, and then we will take up your motion, Commissioner Meieran, if that's okay with you?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll be very quick.
Thank you.
My name is Yuki Okawano. Yute is my partner for the last 6 years. You has shared an allegation of his current behavior to the CIC meeting, contributing to an unsafe work environment for committee members and the staff. In the memo from Danny Bernstein, dated March 20th, 2018, addressed Yute's verbal and written intimidation. Going through all the materials, I cannot see any such intimidation, but his strong feelings about the foundation of the CIC, the independence of the CIC. I believe that this is not a believable allegation, and I feel something more important to discuss about the role of CIC with their members were cut short by the county. Without discussing the actual matter, the allegation was made to end the conversation that has just started this year. I share the frustration with people here, and as a partner of UTE, I state that I never felt unsafe or threatened or being bullied by him. On the contrary, through my experience, he has always been fair and patient. I think he has an amazing skill to listen, especially when we have a disagreement. I am always feel very comfortable to talk through and discuss the matter fully with him. Both Yuki and I believe in being fair. And it is our daily struggle to gain fairness as a minority individual in the community. Yuki has a tragic history background. Came to the U.S. as a refugee. It is unimaginable even to me, who is a third-generation atomic bomb survivor from Hiroshima, how much effort and courageous love he's been offering for the good of the community, trying to put himself in a community member's shoes, even he doesn't share any of the background that a lot of members of the community have. As far as I know, none of my friends...
I'm sorry, can you just finish your sentence? And thank you.
As far as I know, none of my friends are afraid to talk to Yuki about as sensitive topics as racism or politics. We have many LGBT and women friends to enjoy our companies and always feel encouraged to talk about important issues in our current society. Thank you.
You're up.
My name is Teresa Walton. I sent this to you all earlier in the week. I don't need to go over everything that I've done for the past 14 years on the CIC. For those of you that have been around, you know me. You know that I've always served the county with pride and with honor and with dignity, that it's been the greatest portion of my heart and my life that I've devoted to serving the very people that I nurse every day in the emergency room. So I don't want to go into that. When I was first approached to explain the role of the committee to a brand new committee, it was my honor to promote the positive things that we had done for 30 years. I explained the programs in a positive way. We never, Kathleen and I were the cheerleaders pumping these people up against the desire of staff. Staff dismissed us. Staff said everything we'd done for 30 years was irrelevant. They didn't want us talking to the new members of the committee. They didn't want us. So we met at a restaurant. When these people left that restaurant, they were so cheerleadered up, they're ready to get out there and go to work. That's what they wanted. They wanted to go to work. You've got half a room ready to go to work. You've got the people of the county saying, we want to talk to you and civically engage with you about 20 years of pent-up emotions with Wapato and everything else. You've got the people, the committee, ready to do the work, and you've got the office staff saying no. I want to finish this because I think it's important. 2 weeks ago, I received 3 invitations to attend Scott Taylor's
I'm sorry, you got to finish your sentence. We have more people who want to testify.
I went. They said, we've got a project for you. We want you to go. There's two empty seats on the CBAC. I've documented this for you.
Yeah, we have it. Thank you.
I was told by this office that A, they're not filling those positions until July. What are we doing? Till July. As a guest, I can't speak, yet they asked me, requested me to come up and speak.
I'm happy to talk with you after the meeting about it, but we need to continue. We have your testimony, but I'm happy to hear all of your issues after the meeting. Thank you. Sir?
Good morning. My name is James Davis. In 1984, citizens created an independent committee to assure community input into county policy and prevent the kind of backdoor deals that had hurt the county's reputation. I trust that none of you want to participate in a defamatory ploy to support the illegal gutting of a voter-approved advisory and watchdog structure. And yet here we are. I served as CIC chair in 2003, and during that time, we fired a staff member. We hired a new executive director who served admirably, Kathleen Todd. We provided oversight and direction to staff, and we were subject to a county audit that confirmed the CIC's independence. And so to answer your question, Commissioner Smith, the logical body that could remove these members are the fellow members of this independent citizen advisory or independent citizen involvement committee. We all know what it's like to work long hours and have stressful debates. Tempers can flare, even on your board. Situations can get blown out of proportion, sometimes for political gain. When tempers flared recently on the CIC, it wasn't the first time, and it won't be the last. The members talked afterwards to make amends, and there was general support for mediation. The conflict arose out of the committee's chair's exploration of their role as an independent entity. When he brought his research to staff, they surely knew the implications would undermine their roles. That must have felt threatening for staff used to managing committee members rather than taking direction from them. Over time, staff conflated a couple of heated exchanges into numerous complaints allegedly expressed by numerous anonymous individuals. Don't let unsubstantiated claims blind you to what's going on here. This situation is more serious than the defamatory, trumped-up charges against these gentlemen. While you should avoid the defamation of character, you should also understand it is not the role of CIC staff to direct or curtail activities of the committee or request removal of committee members. If the board proceeds with this proposal, not only will it be illegal, since the charter doesn't authorize it, but you'll also be pitting yourself against the voters. Thousands of current and former CBAC members throughout the county may demand to know why you are making an apparent power grab to undermine the effectiveness of the people's independent voice in this county. It's obvious these trumped-up allegations are a rush job to dismiss volunteers without due process, whose only offense is asking hard questions that make staff uncomfortable. If that sounds familiar, it's because that is the job of the CIC and its numerous volunteers. For these reasons, I encourage you to not involve yourself in this conflict between an independent appointed committee and its staff. Every year, you honor hundreds of advisory committees and CBAC members with a dinner and awards. Volunteers give thousands of hours to this county because they care about our community.
Thank you.
Do these awards and contributions they represent mean nothing to you?
Thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
If so, if these awards mean anything, honor them by dismissing this proposal and letting these volunteers get back to work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry Wilmshen, please come forward.
I'll just sit the closest one. I think I'm last. Right?
You get to choose whichever seat you would like. You are lucky.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for listening to us.
Good morning.
My name is Sherry Wilmshen, and I'm a member of the CIC and represent District 4. I've been chosen to chair the subcommittee, which is called the Recruitment, Outreach, and Nominating Committee, and this committee screens potential candidates for the CBACs and CIC members. Our recommendation is then taken to the full CIC and then brought to you for approval. In that capacity, the rescinding of any member from CIC impacts our workload, and we should be informed and consulted We were not informed or consulted. As a member of the CIC, I did not receive reasoning about the cancellation of our retreat. I did not know of the allegations made by some CIC members, which office staff reported to Greg and Ute on March 20th. CIC has been developing as a cohesive committee, and this type of closed communication and rush to rescind appointments prevents any development of trust and open discussion. We are community leaders, and I, for one, am not afraid of having open discussion. CIC as a committee has not met since February and have a scheduled meeting on April 17th, and I see no reason to rush to rescind the appointments. The process seems closed and destroys our efforts to move forward as an independent committee to provide advice and advocacy for the community we represent. We need to meet as a group on the 17th, discuss concerns openly, and move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. All right, do we have any other public testimony? Nope, great. Well, we have a motion on the floor to postpone this item. I have a second. Do we have any conversation? All right, all those in favor vote aye. Aye. Motion is postponed. Thank you. The item is postponed.
R10, acceptance of revised offer for Kehoe Northwest Properties LLC for purchase of